In just 2 days, this will be the scene. Howie Roseman working the Eagles' war room, calling that next group of Philadelphia Eagles to tell them their dreams have come true, or calling other teams about making some trades. Who will be on the receiving ends of those calls remains to be seen. But the draft is getting closer.
Woo!
We'll soon find out. Welcome into Birds Huddle, presented by Toyota. Let's go is right. Official automotive partner of the NFL, Taryn here with you, along with Barrett Brooks, and a man who needs no introduction, Pro Football Hall of Famer Ray Didinger. Ray, thank you so much for joining us today with a legal pad, 2 extra sheets. We've got a quadrant of race preparation, so I think we're in good hands here. Thanks for being here.
Great to be back.
All right, we've got lots to talk about with the draft. Let's get right into it with the 3-point stance presented by Toyota. Stance number 1, the chance of the Eagles picking at number 32 in the first round, not good. Ray, what say you?
I would be very surprised if they stayed at number 32. Because, listen, we know Howie Roseman loves to wheel and deal, and this team has 20. I say that again, they have 20 picks in the next 2 drafts. So he has lots of ammunition to wheel and deal with. Yeah, I'd be very surprised. Now, will he move up or will he move down? That's a little harder to predict. But the fact that staying at 32, I don't see that happening, no.
And Barrett, I loved you two were having a back and forth off camera about the value of that number 32 pick. It holds a lot more value than people sometimes even recognize.
Absolutely. Teams want to trade up. We'll trade down in the draft, meaning, towards the front of the draft in the first round, just to get that 5th-year option. And, and Howie's going to be waving it out there. We got pick number 32 if you want to get out here. But then, how you can trade back, get more value, get a couple more 2s. It's really it's really great for him to have that ability, to have the autonomy to go up or down, and it still be useful for us, whether get more draft capital or just get players.
What happens is sometimes a guy will fall that you thought was going to be picked higher, all of a sudden comes to the end of the draft and everybody's sitting there and says, look who's still on the board.
Right.
And then all of a sudden that phone, whoever has number 32, their phone starts ringing. The last time the Eagles were in this spot, number 32, after they won their Super Bowl, Baltimore called and said that they wanted to take 32, and they came up and drafted Lamar Jackson, who became an MVP. So that's what happens. So all of a sudden somebody will be there that you didn't expect, and all of a sudden they'll call up and they'll say, we want that pick, and they'll pay a high price for that.
I'll say Lamar Jackson makes that number 32 look mighty, mighty valuable. For number 32 to stance number 2, the Eagles will draft another Georgia defender this year. Shocking, I know. Barrett, it's worked before pretty well. Why not go back to the well once again?
A guy like Michael Williams makes perfect sense for the Eagles. A guy to, kind of take the role of what we had in Josh Sweat, a bigger defensive end to get around the corner, stop the run on that side, hold it up, and can go out there and rush the passer. There's a lot of guys on that defense they can get. They can go get Starks, Malachi Starks, he's a guy they can go. Malachi Starks is a guy we can go get at the safety position if he's sitting there, if they choose to do that. It's a lot of wealth of guys we can go out there and really get to help us out. There's Malachi right there. I say this is number 1 safety in this draft.
I agree. I think he is the number 1 safety in this draft. And what happened is he went to the combine and did all the tests, which a lot of people said you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't go there, you shouldn't run the 40. He did because he's a natural competitor. He wanted to do it.
Right.
And he did not have a good combine. He ran a slower 40 than people thought. He didn't test as well as people thought. And all of a sudden now, and this happens all the time. It drives me crazy. People talk themselves out of drafting a really good player because he ran a slow 40. And so I think that Starks, to me, Barrett just said it, I think he's the best safety in this draft by far. I really do. But he's going to fall in the first round here farther than he should, and he'll be at the bottom of that round. But he's a really, really good player.
All because of the Spandex Olympics that is the NFL Combine.
Yeah, sometimes it helps you. Mike Mamula, my draft, helped him go up, and then, look at guys falling down. I mean, hopefully we get them.
All right, I want to move on to stance number 3. Ironically, stance number 3 is about number 2, day 2, that is, of the draft. Will be key for the Eagles. Ray, can you give us some day 2 players that you have your eyes set on that could be a fit for the Birds? Why will they land on day 2? Why will they hold so much valuable here in South Philadelphia?
Well, again, the Eagles are going to be, their pick in the second round is all the way at the bottom. But this is a situation where I think the Eagles last year they loved Cooper DeJean. and they traded up to get Cooper DeJean. This is where I think the Eagles can definitely trade up. See a guy who's in the draft. Xavier Watts is a safety from Notre Dame, really good player. If the Eagles don't get Starks in the first round, Watts would be a really good pick in the second round.
Absolutely.
The other gentleman that you saw there, and that's Watts again, a guy who's all over the field. This guy led all of college football last year in interceptions and passes broken up.
Yeah, that's Watts. Yep.
Yeah, and so you lose Gardner Johnson this year, and one of the things Gardner Johnson brought to you, in addition to a lot of mouth and a lot of attitude, was he's a guy who's around the football and gets takeaways. And that's what Watts is. He's a takeaway safety. And so if the Eagles don't address safety in the first round, if Watts is there in the second round, that's a possibility. The other guy you saw in that montage there is an offensive lineman named Gray Zabel, who's from North Dakota State. Small college player, but really talented. Went to the Senior Bowl and really impressed, and has done the thing that Jeff Stoutland loves his linemen to do. He's played every position. He's played all 5 positions up there. So you bring him in, he'll compete at right guard immediately for that job. And if he doesn't win that job, he's immediately your swing guy at every other position. Really good player.
Bear, who are you liking in round?
You know, I mean, we went over a lot of guys, but I like Landon Jackson from Arkansas. You know, a guy can rush the passer. He has size. You know, he'll be that sweat type of guy. Come in, 6'5", 6'6", 250, 260 pounds, can rush the passer, hold up on the edge. If he's rushing the edge, if you try to run outside him, he can hold up there. He's a really good guy. Has that motor, that energy to just keep going. I like him a lot.
One of the other guys that, just quickly I should mention this. 2 weeks ago, when somebody asked me who I thought the Eagles should take, I mentioned Mike Green, who's a pass rusher from Marshall. I was just basing it on his tape, which was outstanding.
Absolutely.
I will tell you again, and I'll say this again. He is the best pure pass rusher in this draft. No question.
No question.
The best pure pass rusher.
11 sacks, right?
Yeah, 17.
Yep.
17 sacks. And I told Barrett, I said, the guy who reminds me of is Dwight Freeney. I mean, that's high praise, okay? Now, when I said that, I was not aware of all of these allegations of off-the-field issues with him. I don't know where that stands. He's never been formally charged. He has denied everything that's been said about him. His agent has as well. So I don't know where that stands. I can only tell you what I saw on the tape. And what I saw on the tape is the best pass rusher in this draft. Now, if he clears everything, then he's a viable first-round pick. And that's a guy, if you're talking about just getting to the quarterback, he knows how to do it.
Real quickly, I do want to circle back something that you mentioned before when it comes to Zabel. I remember you last year talking about Quinyon Mitchell, and you're very high on Quinyon Mitchell because of what he showed also at the Senior Bowl.
Right.
When does something like that matter to you, Ray, as you're making assessments? Because you said that's what sold you on Zabel this year. Why is that the tipping point with certain guys?
For small college guys. I mean, most, your Division I players are competing at the Senior Bowl against all the guys they're competing against all season, right? But the Senior Bowl is really important for the smaller college players who have never played against the Division I guys. You get them on the field at the Senior Bowl against Division I players, now all of a sudden you say, oh, you know what, he isn't as good as I thought he was. Or, in the case of Quinyon Mitchell, you say, wow, he's every bit as good as I thought he was, and that's how you get a chance to take a kid out of Toledo who comes in and starts for the Eagles. And I think Zabel is the same kind of player. North Dakota State, everybody says, but if you watched him down at the Senior Bowl, where they moved him all around and got on the field with Division I opposition, he showed you that he's a quality player.
Yeah, then you play against the guys that, like Georgia, Alabama, the Ohio States, put them in that scenario. If they ball out, they can take it to the next level and ball out.
And they leave you saying, holy Toledo, Quinyon Mitchell, really good. Maybe the Lightning will strike twice. Welcome back to Birds Huddle. And look at that. The Eagles enter Thursday's draft with 8 picks, 1 in each of the first 4 rounds and 4 picks in the 5th round. That's 8 picks in the first 5 rounds. Plenty of ammo for Howie Roseman to make some moves. And it wasn't all too long ago that we were a tad critical of Howie Roseman's drafting. Does the name Jalen Reagor ring a sour bell for anyone? But lately it's been a clinic put on by the Birds GM. So Barrett, I'll start with you. Can Howie continue to hit home runs? I mean, these are moonshots in some of these drafts.
I think he can, because he's changed his philosophy. He knows how right now to look at guys and see where they're at and where they've come from and see how they, come to this team. I actually think that he's done a damn good job, getting guys in, from these big schools, like Georgia and Alabama. But then he's hit also with the Quinyons, that fall into his lap. So he's done a nice little mixture of listening to people and understanding, yes, I have to get the best available athletes at that time.
Is there any shift you've seen, Ray, in his approach to this, or maybe the guys he's listening to, like Barrett said, that you think has really catapulted his success in these drafts?
I think that one of the things that he has done for the good is I think when he first got into the position of personnel evaluation and drafting, I think he was very into the measurables. I think he was very into the combine stuff. He was very into the 40 times. He was very into the bench press and the vertical jumps and all of that stuff. What you call it, the spandex Olympics kind of thing.
Spandex Olympics.
I think that he was. I think that he was kind of seduced by all of that. And sometimes, if you get caught up in that, you lose sight of, can the guy play?
Right.
Not can he just run in a bunch of cones, but can come 1 o'clock on Sunday, can he line up and play? And I think what you've seen is he's not that he's totally ignored the combine, because he's still that's still a useful tool for a personnel guy. But go to the tape. The tape, watch the guy, scout him, watch him practice, watch him play, watch him on tape, because ultimately that's what you're going to ask him to do, go out and play. And I think Howie has been truer to the football part of drafting than the analytic part of drafting. And I think it's helped everybody. And last year was a masterstroke. I mean, he waited, hoping that Quinyon Mitchell would fall to number 22, which he did. And he got him. And then in the second round, he made a very aggressive move to go all the way up and get Cooper DeJean. And now he's got 2 pieces for his secondary that are going to be here for a long time.
The anti-analytics community will love that Howie's no longer blinded by the spandex. The way the Eagles won this year, they set the tone with their run game, led obviously by Saquon Barkley. With that in mind, do you think because of that, teams will value running backs a bit more when it comes to this draft, whether it's, Ashton Genty from Boise being big back out there? What do you think the landscape looks like when it comes to running backs and valuing what they can do?
No, the NFL is right now and hard-headed when it comes to, what they think about running backs. They still won't value the running back like they need to. There's a back in North Carolina that's very, very good. He'd probably be a second-round pick. Genty will be a top 10 pick. But after that, I don't see a guy going, at that level at this point. So it's still a passing league. They still want great quarterbacks. And until, you win another Super Bowl or another 2 Super Bowls with a running back, they're going to say no. It's not, it's not what they do.
Well, you got Henderson and Judkins are 2 backs that play in the same backfield at Ohio State that are really good players.
Right.
I think what makes that's why this is going to be really interesting this year, is because I do think there is some thought when you see what Barkley did, when you see what Derrick Henry did, when you see what Josh Jacobs did last year. I think there's a feeling now in the league that, hey, you know what, you can run the ball and win in the NFL today. And so you combine that with the fact that this is an unusually good draft for running backs.
It is.
You're really good backs in this draft. So let's see if those 2 come together, and could we possibly see 3 running backs go in the first round? I think you'll certainly see the kid from Boise will certainly go,
Absolutely.
Probably top 10. But you could wind up with 3 backs in the first round, and that's been a long time since we've seen that. But I think the game, it's never going to go back to 3 yards in a cloud of dust. That day ain't coming.
I love that day.
But I love it too. I've been calling for it for 30 years. It won't go to that extreme, but I think what Barkley did last year is significant, and I think you may see a little bit of that in this draft.
I wonder how many people will say, well, their O-line's pretty decent, and Statlin's a pretty decent O-line coach, and that certainly helps. But it'll be interesting to see how it impacts things. Ray, we have to give you credit. You've been a bit of a draft savant lately. He called Quinyon Mitchell last year, the year prior Moro Jomo and Sidney Brown. It is like there's some kind of magic on the yellow legal pad. So what is your crystal ball telling you about this draft, Ray?
Well, as we said at the start, I think that they're going to move out of 32, and I think the opportunity will be there for them to move up. And you know what? I mean, look, Sidney Brown to me was an easy call. He was a really good player at Illinois. Ojomo was, I thought, a very good player, underrated at Texas. They got him in the 7th round, absolute steal. This year, if I'm talking about the Eagles, I think they have an opportunity to move up because I think Jalen Walker is a really good player at Georgia right now. We know the success the Eagles have had with Georgia players. Lord knows they helped them win the Super Bowl. But Walker is a guy who I think is going to fall a little bit more than he should because people can't quite decide if he's an edge guy or an off-ball linebacker. But he has the ability to play in any defense. So I think he's going to be there. And if the Eagles are thinking the way I'm thinking, let's go get another Georgia guy, and I think Walker would be a very nice fit as an edge replacement for the team that needs guys right there right now.
Could you quickly give me a few sleepers, or a sleeper?
Well, a guy I like a lot is Harold Fanning, who's a tight end from Bowling Green. I saw him play against Penn State. Again, Bowling Green, you say smaller school, but you measure them against really big schools, and he played against Penn State and played one of his best games. He's your classic new wave tight end. He can really run, can stretch the field, can get down the seam, and from all the tape I saw, I never saw him drop a pass. So here's a guy who's probably going to fall to maybe third round, maybe even fourth, but he's going to make somebody a really good player.
1,500 yards rushing, receiving, 10 touchdowns.
Not too shabby. All right, coming up, an edge rusher the Eagles could have their eye on to replace a couple of valuable parts that have departed. Birds Huddle, presented by Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL, returns next. Welcome back to Birds Huddle. The Eagles are coming into the 2025 NFL Draft having lost two of their top edge rushers from last season. Josh Sweat signed with the Cardinals in the offseason. He led the Eagles with 8 sacks last year. The Birds also said goodbye to Brandon Graham, who decided to retire after last season's Super Bowl win. With the departure of Sweat and BG, one potential replacement could be Boston College's star pass rusher Donovan Ezeraku. The 21-year-old put up 16 and a half sacks last season, the second most in the FBS, and he was awarded the nation's top defensive end honor. Barrett, that brings us to your Barrett's breakdown. Mr. Brooks, what have you seen from this Boston College product that could help the Eagles out on the edge there?
Well, you know what? He's a little small. He's 6'2 and a half. 6'3", 248 pounds. But I tell you what, you can't take the heart away. He's a South Philly kid. A South Jersey kid also. But we're talking about a guy who has that want to win, want to be great. And when you watch him on film, it all comes out. Watch how he comes out of his break. Now, what differentiates, good pass rushers from just average pass rushers usually is ankle bend and acceleration after that. This is what he had. Donovan definitely has this trait. Now, watch this. This is a big tackle. He's so low, his hands go over him. But look at that ankle bend right there, and watch how he accelerates out for the sack. Come on now. I didn't have to look at a lot of film to see how good this guy could pressure. Here he is right here. He's going to work with this big tackle. He's going to go inside and then finish the play. He's a finisher. He's going to get it. I mean, he was second in sacks for all of FBS, all of college football. Oh, and he's also my frat brother, as you can see. Once again, he's out here. This tackle didn't have a chance. Beats him inside, but then he kind of stops a little bit, but then it's just, I'm just going to beat you with my heart. I'm just going to keep going. You can't stop me. And this is great right here. 3 guys get to touch him. They still can't stop him. He goes in for the stack. They run an ET stunt. He gets to the field, but he doesn't get there fast enough. He's supposed to get in there. Look, he beats 3 guys for the sack. It's that 1-2, and that's production that you get from Ezeraku. He's going to finish every single play, and I love the heart he has, ankle bend, athleticism. He has all the traits you need to be a great player.
He bounced off those 3 players like a Roomba. Just kept going. Job wasn't done. Before we go to break, a reminder to check out our NFL mock draft on NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com, YouTube, and Facebook. It features analysis from Dave Zangaro, Ruben Frank, and producer Mike Mulhern. Very smart man.